Do you ever wonder if there is a meaning to life? If you have a purpose, why you're here? Well, the other day I had that question. And so today I want to talk about purpose. Why it's so hard for us right now to find a purpose and what we can do to be much more clear about it so that we are feeling more grounded in life again. We don't feel like, these feathers in the wind tossed around by all this noise and all this chaos and ultimately feeling like so many do, overwhelmed, anxious, and without any control, without any power. Because if you are in that mindset, then you don't see yourself as meaningful, then you don't see the purpose or the value in yourself. And that is crucial for us to keep on going. So let's delve into this subject. So, why is it so hard for us to define our purpose? Well, part of it is the cultural and societal conditioning. Now, I grew up in a society where having success, building a house and buying a Mercedes was 40. Literally, that's what kind of was imprinted where I grew up in Germany, was purpose enough. That's what you're supposed to do. Well, that doesn't feel or sound right to all of it. We don't want to necessarily feel that the purpose is external validation or showing off that we have, enough money to purchase a nice car or build a house. And not everyone feels like that success in itself is that enjoyable. I just talked to a client who, we had deep conversations about self-love and how important it is to, have a good and nurturing and balanced relationship with oneself. And then she admitted that there is a voice inside of her that says, this is all fluffy, unnecessary stuff. We are just talking about things that ultimately are not productive, that don't really advance the business. And why am I even here? And so that is definitely the cultural and certainly also in her case, a familiar imprint that says you're not supposed to look at yourself too closely. That is self-indulgence. That's, basically something people do that have nothing else to do. You are here to work hard, to amass money, to produce, to be someone that, the others in society look up to. That's your purpose. And I call BS to this because I know a lot of people who have done that. And ultimately, they realize they have never really developed close friendships and never really have nurtured their family. And they certainly have no relationship to themselves. And they only know themselves conditionally. All they know themselves is in that role of the achiever or producer or the person who is successful. But they don't know anything about themselves. It's like they only know the surface, the veneer that they like to show. Well, that's really not something that leads to a happy ending. It usually ends up in depression and feeling lost. And even in my family, I saw people like that. So, no, that is not the purpose that you want to hold on to. It can be a part of your life story, but it doesn't have to be the driving purpose for you. Now, another reason why it's so hard is that disconnection from self. There is so much distraction, and that sense of being constantly pulled away from yourself through over busyness, through social media and all the screen time, through external pressures, through demands and expectations. There is really no time that we are giving ourselves to sit down and ask important questions like, who am I? What is really important to me? What do I like? What do I not like? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to grow into? So we are missing out on that. And I think that is also then when you don't really connect to yourself and when you don't really know yourself, very hard to find out what's your purpose, find out what really, is supposedly driving you or what are you passionate about. So we have to also find a way to spend more time with ourselves, listen more, turn off the noise, turn off the screens, and be more curious about what's inside of us Another reason why it's so hard to have a purpose, because we compare ourselves and we compete so much with others, and we feel like, well, those people have what I supposed to have to be, of value, to be relevant, and then we are mixing that up with any kind of purpose, and it's not. I when I work with young people, I often hear them saying to me that, well, I need to have, this partner, and I need to, have also these benchmarks reached by a certain age, and if I don't, I'm feeling falling behind. And when I get into, a good relationship, I'm going to marry, I really need to have the best, wedding that people are going to talk about, that I can post on social media. And it's all not very purposeful. It's all kind of in a, in a competition, and in a way to define yourself through the comparison with others, rather than through what you really want and what's really important to you. And another reason why we have a hard time with purpose is that we define purpose as something big. We are thinking like, okay, so when I really get the answer to my purpose, it probably is something like, oh, I should become a doctor, or I should, be a philanthropist, or oh no, my purpose is to be an artist, or my purpose is to, be a father or a mother. And so we're assigning roles and big tasks and goals to the purpose, and don't really realize that purpose is actually maybe something smaller but more consistent. It's not some, accomplishment that we have to reach at some point. It's not like shoes that we have to fill. It's more maybe something that is a driving force inside of us, that gives us a direction, that gives us energy. And so I believe there is something maybe also in you that you may have felt drawn to, that was a driving force, whether it was creativity, or maybe helping others, or maybe a sense of connection or adventure, things that you may have felt but somehow stopped yourself from pursuing, because maybe you told yourself, well, this is childhood stuff. This is not anything that adults are doing. So let's dig in and find out how we can get a deeper understanding of our purpose again. So, how do we find our purpose? Well, to get there, I have to admit, I was teaching for quite some time that the real purpose in life, the highest purpose, is to discover oneself, to go on this journey to really find the essence of who we are, that sense of authenticity that somehow may have been forgotten, or maybe covered up or suppressed along the way, and just to unearth more that truth, which is kind of a big word and not easy necessarily to define. But this is why it's an ongoing journey for, until the rest of our lives. Now, the problem with making that the purpose, this self exploration, is that it can actually end up to being kind of lonely, and maybe even a bit selfish, because everything you do is about your personal growth, or your healing, or your letting go of whatever you think you need to let go of. And in the end, maybe that is then rather isolating. And it's possible also that this ends up in a form of never ending cycle of navel gazing, where you just always feel that there is something else that you need to address, or something else that you need to, heal about yourself. And you feel ultimately that you're never a finished product, which I do believe we are not. I think there's always more for us to learn, but it needs to be a balanced approach, because personal growth is certainly important, but it's the whole path. It's, not the destination. It's the path we are on. It's our journey. simply defined. Now, how we do grow, that is certainly up to us. Now, I don't believe that we're going to find the purpose also by looking only outside of ourselves and just wondering what we need to do to get the most positive feedback or admiration, or copycatting everyone else that seemed to be, on purpose and feeling so good and in the zone. That doesn't help either. So it needs to be self knowledge, self awareness, but also then how do we engage in life? What is our contribution? That can really be purpose. So there are different philosophies about purpose. Some say that connection and contribution is the highest purpose, following your dharma and just knowing that you made a difference in the world. There are some religions and philosophies that say that you need to make such an impact, such a legacy in life that you will never be forgotten. So you will always continue to live on even after your final breath. So that's, one aspect. The downside could be that you're so driven to make something big happen that you are kind of becoming, one dimensional, and all the other aspects of yourself you ignore, and you almost feel pressured, and you're not feeling really on purpose, which also includes feeling fulfilled, feeling joy, feeling passion, feeling energized. Another philosophy would say being present, just aware, and being always in the moment, because a purpose is revealing itself as we are there. And I often think that in our fast-paced world, and my life is also pretty fast-paced and regimented, and there are things that I need to take care of, and there are calendars that are full, and that there's this ability to sit and do nothing and just take it all in, not be in your thoughts lost and not even realizing where you are, but really being open and noticing what's going on around you. That can really be a purpose in itself. It can also then guide you further on your purpose journey because it may give you inspiration. And again, purpose is not an all encompassing 24/7 job, or something you have to really feel like this is what I'm living for. Purpose can be also just something that shows itself in small moments. I mean, I have these wild cats. I mean, we have a lot of cats that are, not even able to get petted because they are, stray. And I don't know how they find that, but they find us. And so just feeding these cats, looking after them, making sure that they are okay. And when they have something, to give them some medicine. And I mean, that is purpose in itself. That makes me happy. It doesn't take hours, but it's a part of that purpose that I find in supporting those that have a hard time supporting themselves. Well, then there is also this idea that the purpose is ultimately up to you. You define it. And I like this idea. It's really our creation. And I do believe that there are certain stages we go through in life, where maybe the purpose of the first 18, 20 years is completely different than from 20 to 40, and then from 40 to 60, and then from 60 onwards. So it can always redefine itself. And that is a purpose where we would say, well, I get up in the morning because I, want to go to school, or I want to socialize and make friends, or I gonna get up because I want to have a career and I want to apply myself and I want to be independent, or I gonna get up because I have a family to feed and want to take care of my loved ones and my kids, or I gonna get up because I realize that I have really more balanced life to do, and this means also I need to go and maybe work out, or I need to look for my parents that I haven't really taken care of very much. Or then when you're in your 60s, you think, okay, so now what? I gotta get up in the morning because I want to find some purpose, especially in doing things that I really have not even known are important to me. So there are different phases. The most important thing about purpose is, though, that you feel you have it. that it's not just going on autopilot, going through the emotions, feeling bored with life, feeling like, every day is the same and who cares anyhow? So let's just, get into another series or get lost in another social media outlet and just stop living. Stop even feeling that you matter, that you exist. And that is definitely, I think, a danger that when we are not seeing a purpose, we can fall into. And as I mentioned at the beginning, that can be at the root of feeling depressed, feeling, that we don't really belong, or that we don't really have a right to exist. And of course, it can also lead to a lot of anxiety. So make your purpose something that you really take serious as like a driving force, an inner compass that moves you forward. And let's talk a little bit more specific how to define your purpose for the time right now. When I was a kid, I really noticed very early on that I like to listen to people. Just when the adults were sitting around the table to have a meal, no one really talked to the kids at that time. So you just were pretty much bound to be silent and either get bored out of your mind or excuse yourself, as soon as you gobbled it all up. But I stayed because I loved listening to what people had to say. And I don't know why, but there was just something of an inner curiosity and fascination with the stories and the topics people talked about. And I would say that was something that already pointed me in the direction of a deeper purpose. So I'm saying this because I do feel that when we look back into our childhood, we can find certain situations that may remind us that this is really what made me, excited, sing, that brought me a lot of pleasure. I certainly also would have loved to go into acting, and it wasn't allowed. Another story for another time. But that would have been also great. This creative outlet of just being, on stage and getting into a different character. But what is it about you? Think back. What were the things that made you excited? Where you felt that there was a sense of passion? Maybe those things didn't happen in school. Maybe those things only happened during summer vacation. But think back about the things that you feel brought you joy. Because purpose and joy are very much connected with each other. We are not here to live, in a head down, nose to the grindstone, just making it through. We're not here to live in survival mode. We are here to enjoy life, to feel a sense of fulfillment. And that is what ultimately purpose gives us. We are not little robots. We are not little machines that can just be replaced and function until we are completely worn out and then we get thrown to, the landfill. We are so much more than that, and we all have a right to have joy, fulfillment, and live on purpose. And it doesn't have to be connected to a job. And I know I repeat myself. I just had to say this again. So think back. That's one thing. Go back. Maybe you want to ask your family or your siblings or your friends and just think what brought you joy, what was meaningful, where are the things that you really felt in the zone or alive or lit up. Then also think about your core values. What are the things that you really value? And I mentioned this in another podcast that values shift over time. So the values that you had maybe 10 years ago may not be the values that you're having right now. But whatever right now on your inner values is really important to you, check it out and then ask yourself, am I using these values as a part of my purpose? And if you don't know your values and you don't know how to find them, send me an email at hello@drfriedman.com, and we are happy to send you some little exercise on how to get more connected to your values. And then Another thing that I would really like you to do is to shift from finding the purpose, where you think like, okay, now I have to really, hit my head against the wall, or I have to, turn all the stones around and look underneath if there's a purpose, or to ask everyone, or do some, whatever online test and what is my purpose, to actually creating purpose. And that's fun, because then you're not feeling that purpose is a one time thing. That's once you find it, like the holy grail, you have to, somehow respect it and honor it and fulfill it. No, purpose is shifting and moving, and it can be a purpose for one, season, and then you're going to shift the purpose in something else. So try to see what draws you in. This is where inspiration is such a good thing. And for that, you may need to give yourself a little space and just being present and being open and imagining that you're kind of, a funnel for good ideas, and things are just dropping in when you're not chasing them, when you're not, trying to strangle your future by, spit out what I'm supposed to do, but instead just, being open to receive. And it may not come immediately, but it will come eventually. And it can be as simple, the creating purpose is trying out the things that you tell yourself you're not good at. Some people say, oh, I'm not good at taking care of anything that grows, it always dies. Well, what about trying out to, have a plant and not kill it within a week? Or maybe you felt like, well, we grew up with animals, but I haven't had animals in a long time. Well, get a little animal, maybe goldfish, and just, take care of it. Don't buy a little bowl, buy a real aquarium for it, because they actually need space, just as a side note. Or maybe you felt like for all those years that, well, it's too late for me to have friends because I have been, so busy with work and family. I don't know. I don't know how to make friends anymore. Put yourself out, see what's possible through volunteering or through taking a class, like a language class or something like this, and notice what happens. The fun about purpose is that it doesn't necessarily reveal itself with all the glory of fulfillment and joy immediately. It may take a little time, but it goes hand in hand, that fulfillment, with you feeling more filled up by whatever it is that you're doing, because you feel yourself more. You're not so disconnected from yourself, you're actually engaged with yourself. So you see the point. Purpose is not something that needs to be there as this little, ski lift that keeps you pulling forward until the end of your life. No, it is something that in the moment gives you a jolt, a positive energy, a fulfillment, and then it may just get replaced by another purpose. But it does make you the creator of your reality, because you wake up in the morning and feel like, I have a reason to get up. And until you really get there, just have compassion with yourself. Don't force yourself to, now with the next 48 hours, I need to know my purpose. I need to be lit up. I need to really feel excited about, every day, because that is so much pressure. That feels so miserable that ultimately you will give up. So this is one of those things where I feel like, if you feel that this used to be your purpose, but somehow it doesn't really feel that it brings you joy or fulfillment or excitement. It may have still this idea of, oh, if I don't finish this project, I feel like a failure, so I have to do it. Put it aside for a moment. Realize this is no longer your priority, because it does feel like a black hole that puts all your energy and time into it and doesn't really leave a lot of space for living. And then take care of all the other things that you have ignored. Find more purpose in the simple fact of being and not producing or succeeding or completing something. And I bet if this is something that you have been doing, just feeling so monofocused, and then you're widening your perspective and you find joy and fulfillment in smaller things and other things that may not feel like something you're going to write about, but you personally just feel energized by it, you may at some point feel like, okay, now I'm ready to go back. But I'm not doing it because I have to prove myself something, whatever project that is, whatever focus that is. I'm doing it because I want to, because I like the challenge. But now I feel more empowered, more connected, and also I feel my batteries are full again. They're not depleted. So I hope this all kind of makes sense to you. So if you like this podcast, please write questions or comments in the comment section. Sign up for the feed. Continue to follow me on social media and tune in to the next one. Hi, Dr. Friedemann here. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about fear and anxiety, here you'll find guided meditations, webinars, and interviews with some of the most renowned experts in the field of empowerment. Delve into the over 230 videos and more to come every week.